Today we're going to be starting our new feature called the Breaking News segment, in which we're going to be breaking down news, reviews, and articles concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Today our news comes to us from the years 2015 and 2016. Let's see what they had to say about it then to where we are now in 2021. Our first article comes to us from the archives of the People's National Party 2015 Achievement Bulletin. Under the caption, Building a Stronger Jamaica, Improving People's Lives. During that time period, our ruling party was the PNP, the People's National Party, and the Prime Minister at the time was the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller. We may be confused about the origin of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, being that it is under another's administration enforcement. I want the listenership and the viewership to know that though the project started actually in 2020, it was pre-planned by the People's National Party. They were the ones who conceptualized this idea to create the highway network. Now the plan is in physical motion in 2020, moving on into 2021 under the leadership of the Jamaica Labour Party, though this plan was conceptualized under the People's National Party. It is very important for us to get the facts so that there can be no misconception, no misappropriation of appreciation to the actual visionaries of this road network infrastructure. If we turn to page 12 of Achievements 2015, under the caption Billions Spent on Road Construction and Rehabilitation, the government continues its push towards the development of the country's road network, spending billions on construction and rehabilitation projects. The cabinet has approved a contract to China Harbour Engineering Company Limited, CHEC, for the design, improvement, and construction of Section 1A and 1B of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The work will involve a 43-kilometer stretch from Harbour View to Morant Bay at an estimated cost of US $385 million. So yes, 385 was initially budgeted for from 2015 for this project. This is a part of the overall segment from Harbour View to Port Antonio, covering approximately 65 kilometers of roadway. And during this time period, a contract valued at more than 1.5 billion were signed for the improvement work on the roads and the bridges under the $352 million Major Infrastructure Development Program. So that there was a step in the right direction to start the project, which 5 years later, going 6 years and maybe even running into 7 years before it is actually completed. But let us see if the government can stick to their plan, though it is a different administration. That was 2015. Let us now move into 2016 and see if there are any major news articles about this same project. And let us try to find out if they correlate, if there are any discrepancies, to see if we can dissect to understand exactly what is happening and also the implications on the current project in 2021. Our second article comes to us from the Gleaner, dated June 16, 2016. And this article was penned by Jovan Johnson. The riveting caption of this article is St. Thomas Relief. Holness declares highway still coming to the parish in the southeast. Throughout history, after the recording of the Morant Day Rebellion by Paul Bogle, St. Thomas has become one of the neglected parish in the country of Jamaica. This parish has limited resources in comparison to its neighboring counterpart. The education system in St. Thomas is somewhat compromised, though we have quite an array of persons achieving high degrees or high level of academia achievement, but in comparisons to the infrastructures, the classroom setting, the technological advancement, St. Thomas has always been getting that which is left. The road network also has been a sore point for St. Thomas. The article says to us that faced with the concern that St. Thomas was being treated as a forgotten parish once again, Prime Minister Andrew Holness used a press conference yesterday, which had been June the 15th, to assure residents that they would get a highway, though not on scale once imagined. So the scale that the PNP had proposed, the JLP now, with the shifting of power, are telling the people that yes, there is going to be a highway, but it may not be as grand as it was initially drafted by the previous administration. Holness announced that the highway would include a 4-lane thoroughfare running from Harborview in St. Andrew to Bull Bay. Harborview to Bull Bay will have 4 lanes, which would be a continuation from the last project they did in the right after the Harborview roundabout. So they're going to be widening the road a little bit more to have 4 lanes. They said that also that this section of the height should cover about 6.8 kilometers, 1/6 of the distance that was originally planned to run from Harborview to Morant Bay. Okay, so they are having concerns now about running it from Harborview to Morant Bay. What they are saying they're going to be doing is from Harborview, they're going to be running from Harborview to Bull Bay. Surprisingly, this is a constituent of our Prime Minister Andrew Holness's wife. So road work will be getting done in that constituent. But at this time in history, the JLP had not yet gotten all the seats along the coastline for the project. But over time, we realized that once the seats have been captivated, the tune would have changed. Initially, the Portia-Simpson-Miller administration announced that US $385 would have been spent to build this highway that was in 2015, running from Harborview to Port Antonio as a part of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. However, Holness now says that a similar amount of money will be spent for the improvement of the road network of the southern and western section of Jamaica. So they're going to be spending $384 million US for a smaller portion than what that which was initially projected. Important to note, the Prime Minister called a press conference following Finance Minister Arbor Shaw from the PNP announcement on Wednesday that the original highway plan, which Shaw said would now cost $500 million, that's US, does not make economic sense and would be reconsidered. Now, Andrew Holness is saying that he believes that this plan that they are proposing to cut portions of the road network out but charge the same amount would be a more cost-effective plan, as it would reduce the need for massive land acquisition. In fact, under the former plan, there would be a cost of approximately $120 million to acquire land and other infrastructure. In 2050, it was not yet clear how the development would change, but the downgrade of the work coincides with what Holness said would be an extension of the existing Mapen, Clarendon, Manchester road network. This means that the Maypen Clarendon to Manchester section of the highway will be a toll road, and revenues generated from this leg will be able to partially support the loan repayment. So they are saying that of the US $384 million to cover the project, $326.5 million will come from a loan that will be finalized with the Exim Bank of China. And you will realize that it is also Czech who will be doing majority of the road work. It says that the Jamaican government will be providing the remaining 57 million US that will be outstanding. And when they say the Jamaican government, it means that the people of Jamaica or the taxpayers will be providing the rest of the money through taxation. So when you're riding on the road and you get a ticket that is supposed to go to the road construction, when you buy gas, the gas tax that was imposed a few years ago is designed to go back into road work and road maintenance. So other taxation methods will be used in order to generate revenues for this project. I think we have a very satisfactory understanding of this article. So now let us move to our article number 3. This article also comes from the Gleaner, dated July 6, 2016. The name of the author was not listed. The caption states the government has announced another modification of its plan for the Southern Coastal Highway project. So, speaking at the sectoral debates, the state minister with responsibility for work, which was at the time Everald Warrington, said that the government would go back to some of the original plan. He said the original proposal for a 4-lane highway from Harbourview to Albion in St. Thomas will be pursued, and a 2-lane from Albion to the Yallow's Bridge. Well, this was the initial project that was proposed, so they're reverting now to the idea that this would make practical sense. So they would have done the 4 lanes from Albion to Yallow's Bridge, but there is a challenge with the bridge network, and the infrastructure to lay the bridge in its initial stage was very costly, and as such, they would not want to tamper with the bridge in its current position. So ideally, a 2-lane thoroughfare on the bridge would be the best situation. Instead of having, as the Prime Minister Andrew Holness had announced, for the previous construction, a 4-lane from Harbourview to Bull Bay, then 3 lanes from Bull Bay to Grand Spen, and then 2 lanes from Grand Spen to Albion and the Yallow's River Bridge, that there was a change. And it was stated that the China Harbour Engineering Company, Czech, would have made those modifications at no extra cost. When you hear that sound, you already know what time it is. It is time for us to do a check-up to see if we are operating in accordance to the manual. Yes, you may be asking, what manual, what checkup? We're on the road. Indeed, in order for your body to be ready to go on the road, it has to be in a full service state. So the tip that I want to leave with you today is remember to get regular exercise. You need exercise to keep your blood flowing. You need exercise to activate the muscles. You need exercise to build immunity. You need exercise to ensure the body does not waste away. Remember, in order to be wealthy, you have to be healthy. And that is our tip for today on RoadTripja. Exercise at least once a day. Now for our 4th article, which comes to us from the Gleaner, and it is dated December 13th, 2016. The author is unspecified. The NAA National Work Agency say no timeline yet for the South Coast Highway improvement work. So in essence, this article just went to surmise that the project that was set, the project from St. Andrews, St. Thomas and Portland, which was set, has no timeline. So they have it in plans, they have writings, they have documentation of it to be ratified, to be started. However, it has not yet started, and they are not giving any timeline. The government in June of 2016 signed a $384 million contract with SCHIP, who, as we know, will be the contractor. These are just a few articles that we have gathered from 2015 and 2016 concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. If you'd like to get more updates on our articles, our presentations, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And please don't forget to turn your notification on so that you will be in the know when a video is released. Thank you for your time and do enjoy. Be safe on the roads. From RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's roads. This is your excursion extraordinaire, Dr. A.
Greetings and welcome, family. Thanks for stopping by for another episode of RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's roads. To navigate you through the experience is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire and guide. Today we'll be covering some news articles dating back in 2017 and 2018 concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Articles like the signing of US $326 million loan agreement with China, the expected start date of 2018, which was missed, the People's National Party wanting a voice in the project, and so much more. If this is something that you're interested in experiencing, stick around. Soon come. Thanks for choosing to stay for the experience. Now that we are all here, if you are not yet subscribed to the RoadTripja channel, please feel free to do so and ensure you turn your notification on to all so you will be notified on every occasion of release without exception. If our conversation added any value or even a new perspective, please indicate by turning the like button blue. To have conversations with us, you can do so in our VIP section, the comments. And don't forget to share so others can become a part of the family. It is now time to get active. We are going to be stepping into the year 2017. Our first article in that year in our sequence article flow is number 5, captioned Shaw signs US $326 million loan agreement for the Southern Highway extension of toll road. This article was published by the Jamaica Gleaner, February 16, 2017. And the article states to us, Finance and Public Service Minister Audley Shaw today has signed a US $326 million loan agreement with the China Exim Bank for the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project and the extension of the tolled East-West Way from Maypen, Clarendon to Williamsfield, Manchester. Yes, so this is in relation to the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. However, this is Section B. the section that in 2021 has been designated as toll section. Article goes further to indicate that Shaw, who led a delegation to China, met his Chinese counterpart Xinjiang on Wednesday and updated him on the Jamaican economic and the status of Chinese investment locally. The minister release said he noted that since 2011, when he last met with Jing, Jamaica had progressed with the Jamaica Development Infrastructure Development Program, the major infrastructure development program of the last administration, and to the completion of the North-South Highway. Let's take a pause. This means that talks were already taking place earlier than we thought. Initially, we had found information on this project in 2015, then 2012, when different companies were producing different reports. Now we are seeing that in 2011, the PNP were having private conversation with the Chinese company. Back to the article. At the signing of the loan agreement, Lynk, vice chairman and president of the Exim Bank of China, assured Shaw of the bank's commitment to further support Jamaica in its economic development program. The finance minister agreed on the strategic improvement of Jamaica in joint venture for the development of industrial and agro parks to service export market in the Western Hemisphere. Shaw also met China Vice Minister of Commerce Zhang, and it was mutually agreed to explore the possibility of entering into a memorandum of understanding to put in place mechanism for the establishment of logistic, industrial and agro parks in Jamaica. We are seeing that he also met and discussed with the chairman and the Chinese Development Bank the financing of the North-South Highway and the financing of future improvement project. My final words on this article. We are seeing that this project of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, the finance agreement started in 2011. In 2012, concepts and plans were drafted. In 2015, it was announced by the Portia Simpson-led administration, the PNP, and it was only in 2020 that the project officially started, though groundbreaking was in 2019. This shows the power of bureaucracy. Now for our next article, which comes to us under the caption, Work on the US $384 million South Coast Highway project to begin in 2018. Well, we all know now that this project never got started in 2018. However, 2020 was the year. You may have noticed from the headline that the project cost $384 million US. However, only $326 million US was secured from the China Exim Bank. The math would indicate that there is a difference of $58 million US. This means that that will come directly from the taxpayers up front. And then guess what? The people in the parishes which the road will run will eventually have tax increase on their properties and other amenities to compensate for this project. Not only just to compensate for the project, but to repay the loans and interest. Isn't that interesting? This article truly comes to us from the Jamaica Information Service. And I'll read a portion of it. The US $384 million Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project SCHIP, which entails rehabilitation of 110 kilometers roadway between Harborview and Port Antonio in Portland, is expected to get on its way early 2018. The National Work Agency Communication and Customer Service Manager Stephen Shaw says the environmental impact assessment study which is required for the project implementation is being pursued by the National Environmental and Planning Agency. We have reviewed some of their documents about the environmental impact so far, but we have more on this document to be reviewed. And then the article went further to say that he said that on completion, the NEPA, the NWA, and other relevant government agency and stakeholders will meet to determine a date for a public forum with residents of St. Thomas, where a significant percentage of the project is located. The meeting should happen within 60 days I believe, and once we have been able to complete all the necessary isophores as NEPA is concerned and a decision taken regarding sharing the details of the EIA study, we will be having a public meeting, Mr. Shaw said. We are seeing where there's a lot of back and forth in the development and the design of this project, and they have to go through so many hoops in order to get regulation and certification and all these other precautionary measures that have to be taken into place. We don't mind having these precautions in place. However, what we the people would like to see is more efficiency in the rollout and the streamlining of system where we can track the progress and the process so we can know that people are meeting deadline and target dates. Because when we have it and people can meet the requirements when they feel like, then we have things falling out the line. And then one department may need the information to move to the next step, and they have to be waiting on the department that is lacking before they can even move or submit their position on particular efforts. And the article continues that Mr. Shaw said that National Work Agency was preparing a cabinet submission for the presentation shortly, adding that the island acquisition exercise will start very soon. He also advised that the Czech China Harbor Engineering Company has submitted preliminary designs and is in the process of finalizing these documents. We have access to those designs and they can be located in the description below. We expect that the China Harbor will be able to show us the final design by December. So the project was supposed to start in 2018 and they are waiting on final design by December 2018. So realistically, we are looking to start early next year. Okay, that makes sense, because if we get the design, you have to review them. I need about 3 months to review all those designs based on the bureaucracy, or even more depending. So we therefore see that this project is not going to get off by 2018. Mr. Shaw noted that the project area was a significant amount of roadway that will pretty much continue what started with the improvement of the corridors of Negril to Ochi Rios and from Ochi Rios to Port Antonio. So they are saying that what we'll be getting at the end is a vastly improved road network between Harborview and Port Antonio. And they are saying that the bonus of all of this is the rehabilitation of the stretch from Morant Bay all the way to Cedar Valley, he added. That would not be a bonus. Those roads need to be digged up and repaved. That is something that we need to be addressed. But as time progresses, you will realize that all of that will be addressed, and favorably for the people of Jamaica, not to mention the people of St. Thomas. Let us now move over to the year 2018. Our first article comes to us from the Jamaica Gleaner, July 20, 2018. Caption: Phillips says PNP will establish the Southern Coastal Highway project. Wow, I thought that the project was already being established. Hadn't they laid the foundation? Yes, but they had not yet pursued the actual project. The article goes to say to us that Leader of the Opposition Dr. Peter Phillips says that the People's National Party will go ahead with plans for the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, which is to link the parish to the rest of the country. The project, which was proposed under the previous PNP administration, would see the construction of a 4-lane highway from Harborview in St. Andrew to Morant Bay in St. Thomas at a cost of a whopping US $500 million. We are seeing that the price tag has gone. The original plan was developed by the PNP administration. Thank you, PNP. That was very, very good. I want to let you know, I want you to look at what they have proposed. The plan was to develop a 4-lane highway from Harborview in St. Andrew to Morant Bay in St. Thomas. Check this out, at a cost of $500 million. This is exorbitant for the length of road that will be rehabilitated. We have to do something about this, but will they do something about that in 2021, 2020, or even 2019? Stick around and we'll figure that out. But as we continue in the article, how did the money balloon so far outside the initial plans of almost 2x the original proposed? Don't we see that there is something off here? The plan was just for Harborview to Morant Bay, which has fairly good roads in comparison to the rest of St. Thomas. So the communities that really need the road would not get access And that for us is a big problem. I also had a revelation about the initial intention of this project. The PNP wanted to have this project as a toll road, similarly to how they gated the people of Portmore. Are we kidding ourselves? You really would want to put a toll road in St. Thomas, one of the parish with majority of its citizens living below poverty line or at poverty line? This would be an exorbitant burden on those citizens, and majority of the costs would have to be borne by those who are a little bit better off. So the people would have to pay to use a road that they needed. So this would just be for a show. We need a redesign of this project, at least some modifications, in order for it to work for the people, because the money that is being used to secure the loan is from the people. So we need our representation to work for the people and not against the people. Back to the news. The plans changed with the election win of the Jamaica Labour Party in 2016, which instead announced that it would upgrade the road from Harbourview to Bull Bay and was an undertaking improvement roads work for the rest of the road network. That sounds a little bit better, but let us see what will happen in the near future. Speaking during a tour of the parish yesterday, Phillips said that a PNP government would revert to the original plan. The original plan seems good in idea, but the cost of the plan seems a little bit exorbitant. That is just my opinion. According to him, the absence of the appropriate infrastructure is one of the main reasons for the extreme underdevelopment of St. Thomas, and we think it's essential that the plan be put back in place. Philip said in the meantime, opposition will use the parliament to push the government to reconsider its position and fast-track the highway project. Apart from the announcement, we haven't seen evidence of the road work started, and we are going to use every available resource in parliament to get the government to respond to the needs of the people of St. Thomas, he said. And I'm just going to pause right there. If we remember, the initial plan was designed by the PNP. They served 2 terms with the plan, because each term is 4 years. They were in power up to 2 terms with the plan. However, the road work didn't get done, but they had the plan, which is tremendous. It seems as though when our officials are in power, they have a different perspective than when they are on the opposition. Just something to think about. This is where we have to put a pause on our news recap and review of the development concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The saga will continue, and there are more revelations and changes that you may have not known. Here at RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's road, it is our duty to keep you in the know. Until next time, we will jump over to 2019. You don't want to miss it. But for now, walk, drive, and fly good. This is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire, signing out. Peace, love, respect. Greetings and welcome, family. Thanks for stopping by for another episode of RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's roads. To navigate you through the experience is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire and guide. Today we will be covering some news articles dating back in 2019 concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. News articles like the South Coast Highway Improvement Project on track, which it was not. Time come, South Coast Highway Project goes to tender this week, behind schedule. Tender process for the Southern Coastal Highway Project to begin shortly, which was relative. South Coast Highway work to begin shortly, says PM, which is confirming the first article, and so much more. If this is something that you're interested in experiencing, stick around, soon come. Thanks for choosing to stay for the experience. Know that we are all here. If you have not yet subscribed to the RoadTripja channel, please feel free to do so and ensure you turn your notification on to all so you will be notified on every occasion of a release without exception. If our conversation added any value or even a new perspective, please indicate by turning the like button blue. To have a conversation with us, you can do so in the VIP section, the comments, and don't forget to share so others can become a part of the family. If you want to have private conversation, you can email us at roadtripja.jm@gmail.com. It's now that time again. It is time to get active. We're in the year 2019. Our first article in this year in our sequential article flow is article number 8, captioned South Coast Highway Improvement Project on Track. This article came to us from the Jamaica Information Service out of the Office of the Prime Minister, dated January 28, 2019, the year when the wheels on this mobile began to roll. And the article states to us, the South Coast Highway Improvement Project remains a priority of the government. It says, coming out of the recently held cabinet retreat, it was directed that the tender for the first 5 subcontracts to be carried out by local contractors be issued before the end of 2018-2019 financial year. The other 10 packages will be completed over a 2-year period. And the outlined priority areas were Hardley to Long Road, 4.1 kilometers at a cost of $2.3 million US, Manganiu to Fair Prospect, 8.8 kilometers at a cost of US $5.1 million, Morant Bay to Surge Island, 14.7 kilometers at a cost of $5.1 million, Surge Island to Cedar Valley, 11.7 kilometers at a cost of US $5.5 million, Morant Bay to Prospect, 8.9 kilometers at a cost of $4.8 million US. The most extensive chunk of the work, the highway from Harborview to Yalis, will be done by the China Harbor Engineering Company, CHIP, and the final design work will be completed in 6 months and work will commence by the end of the year. So they have submitted designs before. However, these designs have to be modified, edited, and justified, and if there are changes, those things have to be taken into consideration. But based on the final agreement, they indicated that they will be producing the final design within 6 months, which takes us to June, providing that all is well. And if we give them a little buffer of 6 months starting at the end of January, it will take them to July. Hence, the work is expected to commence at the end of the year, which means that they would need another maybe 4 to 5 months to get themselves in order before the work commences at the end of 2019. But we all know how that went. We'll now jump over to our next article. It says, time come, South Coast Highway Project goes to tender this week. And this article comes to us from the Jamaica Gleaner on February 18, 2019. The article states to us that 5 subcontracts valued at more than $22 million are to go to tender this week for road work in St. Thomas and Portland, according to Government Minister Darrell Vaz. This following the allocation of more than $8.4 billion in the 2019-2020 budget. The government made the allocation to funds its ambitious plan to rehabilitate more than 100 kilometers of roadway across the eastern end of the island. This represents the South Coast Highway Improvement Project SCHIP, which has been in the pipeline for some time now, which has been a very, very long time, since 2011. It seems as though this pipeline was really long because this project came to our knowledge in 2011 based on research we have done so far, and it was in the pipeline until that time. It only started flowing out of the pipeline in 2020. But who to tell that it was not in the pipeline before we knew about it? But we will keep searching and keep you up to date. The The article went on to say that a subcontractor is to be selected by mid-March. It is February and they're trying to find a contractor by mid-March. Further, Vaz said work on the proposed highway from Harborview in St. Andrew to Yallis in St. Thomas is set to commence by the end of the year, which has been reiterated on multiple occasions. Czech China Harbour Engineering Company will complete the design work for the highway, which will take approximately 6 months, so that highway will start by the end of the year. Vaz at this time is basically repeating what was stated before from the office of the Prime Minister. So this is not really new information, but it's just information to let you know that, hey, we remember what we said and we're going to try to fulfill the obligations. In recent months, residents in several communities across St. Thomas have staged a series of protest action to draw attention to the poor road conditions in the parish. The announcement by Vaz could be welcome news for residents and business operators who saw the SCHIP derailed last year, which would have been 2018, after 3.1 billion was slashed from the 3.6 billion allocation, which means the government said, hey, we need more money to do other things which are more important than giving the people of St. Thomas roads. So we are going to take away 3.1 billion out of 3.6 billion dollars that we had allocated to them, which means that would leave 0.5 billion in the kitty set aside for road work, which based on the projection could not have done what needed to be done. However, this money will come in handy closer to the time of election when road work started to ramp up, as we will see as time progresses. So these are strategic moves that were made. Nevertheless, let us follow the news. Vaz conceded that for decades infrastructure development has eluded St. Thomas and Portland, but insists that the SCHIP will be the game changer for both parishes. He explained too that the SCHIP was delayed last year because of protecting negotiation with China Exim Bank and the Jamaica Finance Minister. China Exim Bank changed the terms and conditions of the previous loan agreement, Vaz explained. And we have to understand that the China Bank is a bank that is there to do business. And when inflation takes over, it means that the value of the money is decreased, which means now that as time progresses, what costs $1,000 may cost $3,000. So indeed, the loan agreement had to be changed because they are going to need more money in order to fund the project based on the amount of time that would have elapsed over the years. The news article continues and says that 4 of the 5 subcontractors set to go to tender next week are for the roadway between Morant Bay and Surge, valued at US $5.1 million, Surge Island and Cedar Valley, valued at $5.5 million, Morant Bay and Prospect, valued at $4.8 million, Hardley and Long Road, valued at $2.3 million, all in St. Thomas. The other subcontractor is for the strip of road between Manchneil and Fair Prospects in Portland, valued at $5.1 million. At least the people can be contented to know that allocations have been made and the values are remaining consistent from one month to another. The article went further to say that according to Vaz, they are among 15 road packages between St. Thomas and Portland that are to be subcontracted by Czech to local contractors, which means that Czech has the main contract. They are going to be covering the majority of the infrastructure development. And then what they're going to do, they are going to allow other contractors to work on their behalf to complete the rest of the road. But overall, they are the ones who basically has to oversee to a degree the road work that is being taking place. The good thing about this is that these contracts have been put in place, so local development companies will benefit to a degree, not as much as the China Harbour company, but a portion of the money will remain in local hands, which means that the velocity of money can increase locally. Because if we understand about the Chinese dynamics and money flow, whatever money they receive from Jamaica go right back into their country. They keep the mere minimum in Jamaica. So we have to understand that it is the people of Jamaica who, when you buy a service, utilize a service, you pay for it and the money continues to flow. That is how the money velocity works, and that is how people feel and become more wealthy. And And this is the principle that the Jews use to ensure that wealth remains within the Jewish community. But that is a conversation for another time. Let us move expeditiously to another article, which says, tender process for Southern Coastal Highway project to begin shortly. So this now is March 20, 2019, and this article was written by Latonia Linton. We'll go through a few of the details. It says, the tender process for the local component of construction work under the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project SCHIP is slated to begin shortly. Prime Minister the Most Honorable Andrew Holness made the disclosure during his presentation in the 2019-2020 budget debate in the House of Representatives on March 19, 2019. SCHIP is part of the government's strategic development plan for unlocking the growth prospects of the South Coast by connecting Negril, Westmoreland to Port Antonio, Portland via a modern highway system which is slated to run through St. Thomas. It is stated that the construction of the highway will enable easier travel around the island, enabling sustainable utilization of existing natural resources and provide for the future development of the island's tourist economy. So if we're understanding clearly, they are basically saying that they want to turn or transform St. Thomas into another tourist destination. That is their idea based on what they have been reporting. And St. Thomas is caught in the middle because they are trying to actually connect Negril to Portland. But in order to get there from another route and another angle, St. Thomas falls in the middle, and hence St. Thomas will be a beneficiary of the road network. The article went on further to say that he informed that the design work, land acquisition, and interagency coordination, particularly between the National Workers Agency NWA and the National Water Commission NWC, are far advanced. Who knows? Civil work are anticipated to commence in the first quarter of fiscal year 2019-2020 under 5 contract packages, which we made mention earlier of. The article then indicated to us that each road package is expected to have a duration of 14 months. And given that the road package will start on various times, the total life of the project is expected to be 36 months. That was stated by the Prime Minister. So 36 months divided by 12 equates to approximately 3 years. Based on the time that we are in the year 2019, 3 years plus 2019 equal 2022 if all goes well. But we are going to give them grace, being that we know that the project actually started in 2020. So by 2023, we are expecting that the work should be completed. I want you to bear these costs in mind. SCHIP entails the construction of 16 kilometers 4-lane highway with safety barriers from Harborview to Yallas. And this will be undertaken by China Harbor Engineering Company, Czech, at a cost of $110 million, which is approximately about $17 billion based on the exchange rate of 157. It then goes to say 96 kilometers of road will be rehabilitated from Yallas Bridge, St. Thomas to Port Antonio in eastern Portland along the existing road alignment to reduce corners, improve safety, and open up access to the island, which may be of touristic value. The work will be supervised by the National Works Agency, as it is a main road. It's usually supervised by them, and executed by a local contractor under subcontract from Czech. That's very important to hear. It says, and executed by local contractors under subcontracts from Czech. I want you to think about that. At a cost of $74 million, according to the Prime Minister, which is just about 11 billion Jamaican dollars. He said that the project also includes the renovation of 6 kilometers of road from Mark Bay to Cedar Valley by local contractors under the subcontract Czech. The value of it US $11.4 million. So local contractors have easy access to 1.7 billion Jamaican dollars for rehabilitation work. So in the year 2019, it seems as though they are making actual efforts to get the road work done. But you may be wondering, why are they so eager at this time to be getting the road work done? We'll see later on as we get closer to 2020 that the election was in the air. moving to our next article, the South Coastal Highway work to begin shortly, the Prime Minister reiterated, which is basically a confirmation of the previous article. And this article was written by Paul Clark from The Gleaner, and this was published on March 22nd, 2019. The main part of the article is that Andrew Holness says that it is this government that will give them the road and infrastructure they deserve. In building a new Jamaica, every corner of Jamaica from the east to the west will get a blessing. Alright, so let us just dissect this. We need to remember that this road was already in the pipeline from 2011 when the PNP had been in power. They went through parliament, they did a lot of deliberation. However, this road work didn't get on because the PNP, though they had the majority, they didn't have as much power in order to make this a priority item. Now, the reason for the road work being possible to be executed with such expediency is due to the fact that the JLP have positioned themselves in such a way in Parliament that they have a louder voice in comparison to the opposition. So they have something that we can consider to be leverage, which they will be using to their advantage. So in my estimation, this is a joint effort between the PNP and the JLP. But at the end of the day, we welcome the change, we welcome the improvement. It doesn't matter which party had planted the seed, it don't matter which party watered it. All we care about is that the tree is mature and the fruits are bearing. That's all we care about in the present. Let us see if we have time for one more article. It says performance criteria for the contract to be introduced in public procurement process. And this comes to us in August. This information comes to us from JIS and it's out of the Office of the Prime Minister, which was written by Alice Smith. It says to us that the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, says he has mandated the new procurement authority to develop a policy outline to introduce performance management contracting in the procurement process. He said the introduction of this accountability mechanism will serve to improve how contractors works. Importantly, it says that we know of several contractors who have worked, they don't finish, they don't complete it on time, but yet they come back in the process. So there must be a way within procurement process in which the past performance of contractor feature is the ability to get future work, which is fair if we're going to be transparent, and that is why I think that all the information should be made public. Every dollar that is being spent, we should know exactly where it is going, who is getting what. We need to know all this information so we can hold the government accountable and the government can hold the workers accountable. And this came when the Prime Minister was speaking at the US $195 million, $2.8 billion contract signing ceremony for the South Coast Highway Improvement Project, SCHIP, at the Jamaica House on Monday, August 26, 2019. So they were actually signing contracts. August 26, 2019. Let us see if they can get the work done by the end of the year as they expressed. Indeed, this was an informative session, and at this time we will have to pause momentarily our news recap and review of the development concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, SCHIP. The saga will continue, and more revelations and changes that you may have not known about will be revealed. However, here at RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's road, it is our duty to keep you in the know. Until next time, when we will continue through 2019, closer to the time of election, to see the change and transformation concerning the interests of this road highway project. We don't want to miss it. But for now, walk, drive, and fly good. This is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire, signing out. Peace, love, respect. Greetings and welcome, family. Thanks for stopping by for another episode of RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's roads. To navigate you through the experience is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire and guide. Today we'll be covering some news articles dating back in 2019 concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. News articles like work on road from Harborview to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas begins end of September. Really? Businessman, highway will change St. Thomas? Indeed. Government will not allow the Southern Coastal Highway project to be taken over by criminals. Let us see. Ground broken to commence a Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Congratulations. Philip predicts nightmare as St. Thomas Road project revised, and more. Well, this could get interesting. If this is something that you're interested in experiencing, stick around. We'll be right back. Thanks for choosing to stay for the experience. Now that we are all here, if you are not yet subscribed to the RoadTripja channel, please feel free to do so and ensure you turn your notification on to all so you will be notified on every occasion of a release, without exception. If our conversation added any value or even a new perspective, please indicate by turning the like button blue. To have conversations with us, you can do so in the VIP section, the comments, and don't forget to share so others can be a part of the family. And for those who need added information and reference material, visit the description below. It's that time again. It is time to get active. We are still in the year 2019. Our first article in that year in our sequential article flow for this segment is number 13, captioned "Work on the road from Harborview to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas begins end of September." This news article comes to us from the Jamaica Information Service, dated August 27, 2019, written by Elise Smith. And it indicates to us the government will be spending US $195 million to undertake road construction work under the South Coast Highway Improvement Project SCHIP, which is slated to begin by the end of September. The initial segment of the project will entail the rehabilitation of a 14-kilometer stretch of road from Harborview in Kingston to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas by the China Harbour Engineering Company CHEP through a 3-year contract. So this contract is valid for 3 years. SCHIP is a part of the government strategic development plan for the unlocking of growth prospects on the South Coast by connecting Negril Westmoreland to Port Antonio, Portland via a modern highway system. And in order to reach Portland, they would have to traverse through St. Thomas. Hence, we have the St. Thomas Highway Project. To facilitate the work, a CHEP has subcontracted this component of the project to 3 local contractors. This presents to us the idea that CHEP has a contract. However, they have the contract and they are using other contractors, which is subcontracting, to take responsibility for the different sections indicated. However, overall contract has to go through them with agreement from the government. The construction company, the government, and the 3 subcontractors signed off on this agreement at a contract signing ceremony on Monday, August 26, 2019 at the Jamaica House. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Country Manager for CHEP, Dangran Bai, along with representative from Alcar Construction and Haulage Company Limited, Construction Solution Limited, and YP Seaton and Associate participated in the signing ceremony. As part of the contract, the section from Harborview to Yallahs Bridge will be widened to 4 lanes to include new and improved alignments, while the existing main road from Yallahs Bridge to Port Antonio and from Morant Bay to Cedar Valley will be rehabilitated. Some realignment will also be done on selected sections of these corridors. It is important to note that the contract that was signed on August 26, 2019 was for the construction of a 4-lane highway from Harborview to the Yallus Ridge, while there will be strategic widening and rehabilitation and alignment of the road network from Yallus Bridge through Morant Bay to Cedar Valley to Port Antonio. This is important to remember because we will see in the future where we will be adding and modifying and having derivatives from this plan. Prime Minister Andrew Holness said that the road improvement work is a part of the government trust to open up and drive development in the eastern end of the island. We are not just making this massive investment of US $195 million because we want to put down a lovely roadway, but in terms of a wider development plan, we have historically pushed development to the west. We need now to push the development to the east, he said. He noted that once the rehabilitation of the dual carriageway is complete, there are plans to begin the development of housing solution in the area. So the government is going to be moving with the National Housing Trust (NHT) and the Housing Agency of Jamaica to start developments on land that we own there, he stated. And we call on developers to start looking now to the east to develop lands that are now made viable, he said. In the meantime, the Prime Minister assured that the project will be done properly in such a way that 50 years from now, it will be standing strong. For his part, the county manager from China Harbour, Dan Granbai, said the company appreciates being chosen by the government as the contractor for this major project. In the meantime, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Honorable Darrell Vaz, welcomed the project, noting that this is by far the best thing to happen to the eastern end of the island in decades. Especially the fact, and that may be true, especially now due to the fact that he will be a beneficiary in that his constituent an extension of the road network. He noted that a key component of the project is that the upgrade of the water infrastructure will be undertaken simultaneously, which is beautiful. And in the area of Albion in St. Thomas, while they are working on the road, from time to time the community is without water, being that they are laying piping as well to facilitate the expected population increase, which is logical and strategic. That way, when the road is built, it will not have to be digged up for the next 10 to 15 years to lay pipes or additional infrastructure. Now, let us move to another article under the caption, Businessman Highway Will Change St. Thomas. And this article comes to us from Simone Morgan Lindo from The Star, and it is dated October 22nd, 2019. And this article in essence made reference and communication to the first and last bar owner and jerk center in St. Thomas, which has been around for decades, almost boasting 47 years at the time of the documentation. At the time of this recording, it would be about 49 years. And this first and last bar can be seen in our video footage from any of our journey that passes through the Albion community and also the Yallus area. Heading towards Morant Bay, it would be on your right hand side, right before you reach the Advanced Service Station. Heading to Kingstown, it will be on your left hand side, right after passing the Advanced Service Station in Albion Community. The article goes on to say that the family business is currently operated by Danette Jones, Rani, and O'Neill Kerniff, whose customers continue to make it the first and last stop for them at the end of each day. But changes is coming for the bar and the jerk center with the implementation of construction for St. Thomas leg of the South Coast Highway. Jones said they have been notified that their business will now have to be moved further backwards from its current roadside location. But the business owners believe that the change is good. And Jones went on to say that if the government wants something, then I am going to give it to them. But what Jones went on to say, if the government wants something, then I am going to give them, but with a good deal. They already came and made a survey, so I know I will have to move back my establishment. If bringing the highway will increase our property value, then I am all for it. And indeed, confirmation has been made that a deal was derived and transfers have been made. So now it's just time push the business backwards. The first and last bar was started by Jones' mother, Olive Taylor, in 1972, while the Jerk Center actually began its operation in 1997. Now, time for another article in this saga. Time for another article in this saga. Government will not allow Southern Coastal Highway project to be taken over by criminals. And this article was presented by Patrice Walters, dated November 16, 2019. For this session, we'll have two audio clips of the Prime Minister.
Whenever we have these major infrastructure projects, people see them as opportunity. Not necessarily opportunity for the people, but they see it as opportunity for themselves. Work's delayed, work done sub-quality, substandard, extortion, overruns. It's not going to happen here. Let me just be very blunt. The government will not stand by and allow this national project to be in any way captured by thugs, criminals, and dons. This project is not for fattening your pockets. This project is to help the people of St. Thomas come out of 100 years of neglect. This project will be put under the highest level of scrutiny.
So yes, we're seeing where the Prime Minister is indicating that he will not allow this project to be overrun, he will not allow talks to take over, he will put the project under high scrutiny. Let us see if they will be able to navigate those impending possibilities in the near future.
With the exception of 1998, poverty rates in St. Thomas have exceeded the national average, and I'm not pleased with that. I don't think anyone in St. Thomas is pleased with that. Indeed.
So the Prime Minister is confirming what we had indicated before, that the poverty rate in St. Thomas is quite high. St. Thomas, St. Mary, and some areas of Portland, the poverty rate is unbelievable. However, people are still surviving in those areas. People of St. Thomas have been left behind in many different ways. Educationally, they have been given substandard educational material, substandard educational infrastructure. Financially, in investment in infrastructure and businesses have been limited or restricted in the area of St. Thomas, and even road networks, they are in a deplorable condition, and so much more. That is not why we're here. Let us continue.
The sentiment of the people of St. Thomas is that they have been left behind. Ever since the rebellion, abandoned by the English, governments have just not pushed development to the east, and we intend to change that. And we believe that the building of this road will carry economic opportunity into this parish.
I would not call it a rebellion. What I would say is that when the people decided to stand up for themselves, to stand up for what was right, they were disenfranchised, they were exiled, for a better choice of word. So it's not the people's fault, but the governance fault why the people are in the position that they are. And if we understand history, we will realize that the English were the ones who were ruling, but with the absentee landlords that existed in this country, while the Jamaican people were working. They were working for free while they were living lavish lives in other countries. And indeed, I agree with the Prime Minister that the building of this road will carry economic opportunities, and that is exactly what is needed in the parish of St. Thomas. Now, let us move to another article under the caption, Groundbreaking to Commence Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. This article is courtesy of the Jamaica Information Service, written by Chris Patterson on November 17, 2019. So, we're seeing that the project that had been slated to start by the end of 2018 did not get started then. On August 26, the people were once again promised that the work would have started by the end of September 2019, and at the time of this news it is November 17, 2019. That means that the deadline was once again missed because the groundbreaking ceremony was taking place in November for a project that was to have started in September. Let us hear what the article has to say to us. Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Saturday, November 16, 2019 broke ground to commence the multi-billion-dollar Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, SCHIP. The undertaking will entail the rehabilitation of approximately 110 kilometers of roadway between Harborview in St. Andrew and Port Antonio in Portland, and 26 kilometers thoroughfare from Morant Bay to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas. Additionally, it will include construction of the Maypen to Williamsfield segment of Highway 2000, and this segment of the road is the toll road section. But we're not really concerned about this in this project. We will discuss the South Coast Highway in another sitting. The project will be executed by the China Harbor Engineering Company. Check. Speaking at the official launch in Yallas, St. Thomas, the Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the project forms a part of the government's strategic development plan for unlocking growth prospects in the eastern end of the island and increasing commerce and spurring development. He said that while the project is not similar to the concept initially envisioned, the new arrangement is a comprehensive plan to ensure that the road and the expenditure are sustainable. We are putting in a road that every single citizen in St. Thomas and Portland can drive on without paying a toll. Mr. Holness said the new roadway will improve connectivity, which is key to ensuring productivity. The idea is to reduce the distance between people, market, services, and knowledge is a great part of what the economic growth is all about. The people of St. Thomas are truly grateful for the consideration in not taking their money, getting a loan, and then asking them to pay back a loan and giving them a toll road without even having proper road infrastructure in the parish. That would just have been gross disrespect. Why would you realize that St. Thomas has one of the highest incidences of poverty and then you're going to put a toll road in St. Thomas? It means that you don't concern or care about the people in St. Thomas. So St. Thomas would now become a drive-through, and the people of St. Thomas can't even drive on the roads which their money were used to build. Before we get triggered, let us go to our final article in this review. It comes to us from The Gleaner, captioned, Phillips predict nightmare as St. Thomas Road Project revised. And the date is December 4th, 2019. And the article reads, we have to listen because this is very important. With the expansive roadwork project from Harborview to Yallas about to begin, which means that the roadwork has not yet begun, opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips has described as short-sighted the plan of the government to carry out the revised proposal of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The project, for which ground was broken in November, has seen a cut in more than a third of the approved budget since its inception in 2018. This is in relation to the new proposed project, not the one that was initially designed, from which we found information dating back to 2011. However, Fenton Ferguson indicated in a speech that this project actually was conceptualized under the administration of then Prime Minister P.J. Patterson, which adds even more gravity to the situation of how horrible bureaucracy is. Though the project has been modified, it is the exact same project just with modification because a different administration is overseeing it at this time. So they have to personalize it to make it appear as though they are adding value to the system. project. But let us continue with the reading. It says the initial plan for a 4-lane highway that would run through Port Antonio, Portland has been shelved, reducing the scope of work to the rehabilitation of existing main road. The project will cost $384 million. The adjustment has caused Phillips to forecast a traffic nightmare in the future for the parish. He is forecasting a traffic nightmare similar to the traffic nightmare that exists in Portmore, or even worse if everybody starts to migrate to St. Thomas or traverses through St. Thomas. He goes further to state that we have had a long time concern about the scaling down of the original proposed road to plan only for the traffic load of present. We think that if you are really going to unlock the full potential of St. Thomas, we should be recognizing that there is going to be much heavier traffic load, and that should be provided for from the onset. I actually agree with the proposal for the highway in its extravaganza as was proposed by the PNP, however, not at the cost in terms of amount that has to be initially paid out and the amount that is going to come out of the taxpayers' pockets to commute on the road that they actually needed in terms of tolling the road. I am not in agreement with that. Though I understand the idea that the opposition has, but what I'm saying to myself, they were in power with this plan since Prime Minister P.J. Patterson, Portia Simpson Miller, who served 2 terms, and the road work didn't get started. This is quite a conundrum. This is gross negligence, if I can speak freely, and I believe that they should be held accountable for not carrying out the project that they planned. The modification to the proposal are strategic, and we have an opportunity to understand that this modification is a political play. At the end of the day, you have to realize the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness currently, and Fenton Ferguson and members of the opposition, they are all friends. So when they are on TV, they have to present a front of tension that really and truly exists only in Parliament. Because at the end of the day, when everybody is doing their business, they are there laughing and talking on the telephone, setting up plans and designing opportunities. But that is another story. We're not here to talk about that just yet. Let us continue. Though the projection of heavier traffic may be plausible, what we need to realize is that in a few moments, we will not be driving on the roads in the way that we are accustomed to driving on them. Driving will become more efficient with the advent of electric vehicle, which will not utilize as much gas. We're going to have solar powered vehicles as well on the road within the next 5 to 10 years. We are going to have quite a bit of those vehicles. We are going to be having drone travel before 2040. People will be moving from one place in Jamaica to another place by a drone, passenger drone that we are talking about. So the road network should be sustainable for the time that we are currently in and based on projection for the future. So I don't think that we should concern ourselves too much about it. This is where we have to put a pause on our news recap and review of the development concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The saga will continue, and there are more revelations and changes that are to come that you may have not known occurred. However, here at RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's road, it is our duty to keep you in the know. Until next time, when we will jump over to explore 2020 events, but not before a light revision of the final profound moments of 2019. You don't want to miss it. But for now, walk, drive, and fly good. This is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire, signing out from RoadTripja. Peace, love, respect. Greetings and welcome, family. Thanks for stopping by for another episode of RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's road. To navigate you through the experience is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire and guide. Today we'll be covering some news article dating back in 2020 concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. News articles like infrastructure spending, big ticket item in upcoming upcoming budget. South Coast Highway work to start in 3 months. Wow. Work on Portland leg of highway continues despite budget cuts. Southern Highway project won't stall. NEPA keeps an eye on changes to the South Coast Highway, and so much more. If this is something that you are interested in experiencing, stick around. We'll be right back. Thanks for choosing to stay for the experience. Now that we are all here, if you are not yet subscribed to the RoadTripja channel, please feel free to do so and ensure you turn your notification on to all so you will be notified on every occasion of release without exception. If our conversation added any value or even a new perspective, please indicate by turning the like button blue. To have conversations with us, you can do so in the VIP section, the comments, and don't forget to share so others can become a part of the family. For added information and reference material, visit the description below. It is that time again. It is time to get active. We are in the year 2020. Remember, you have always heard, hindsight is 2020. Well, we are in the year 2020. Our first article in the year in our sequence article flow is number 18, captioned Infrastructure Spending Big Ticket Item in Upcoming Budget. Before we get to that article, let us listen an excerpt of what the Prime Minister stated at the groundbreaking ceremony in 2019 concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. This is very pivotal and important to note, after which we'll move straight into the article number 18.
My friend, who is representing the leader of the opposition, and I'm not certain if you were delivering a message from the leader of the opposition or those were your messages, Dr. Fenton, but whoever message they were, I took note of one in particular, well, two messages, I took note of one in particular. This highway is not a downgraded version. I want to be clear on that, because you said that this highway was downgraded or scaled down, whichever term you choose to use. This highway is an improved version of what was contemplated before. What was contemplated before was to build effectively a road that would have been tolled. You understand what I've said? I didn't say you were going to build a toll road. I said you were going to build a road that would have had to be tolled. In the construction of that road, the only way it could have been afforded is if it were tolled. And it was a realigned road that would have taken it through the hills at very exorbitant costs of land acquisition and engineering works to have made it work. Now let me be clear, I am not opposed to that. And indeed in the future, we may very well have to do that. But we must always, though we are visionary, we have to be practical and scale our development to make them sustainable. In other words, what it is that the economy can carry within the next 10 years. And so we scale the development to what the economy of the eastern parishes could carry. So we're not downgrading anything. What we have done is to make sure that it is sustainable, that you, the people of Eastern St. Thomas, can have the road to travel on and not a road that will travel through your parish. So the strategy is to bring the road closer to the people so that the people can benefit from the road. That is the strategy. Bring more communities from further distances that would find it much more easier to come to Portland or come to Yallas or anywhere in the eastern part of the island.
Did you hear that? Yes, indeed. I will say no more. Sometimes things are not as they appear to be. It appears as though it would have been so beneficial, yet there was a hidden agenda which was not revealed until these moments. Think on these things. Now, article number 18. Infrastructure spending, a big ticket item in upcoming budget. This article comes to us from the Jamaica Observer, Sunday, January 26, 2020. It says the Finance and Public Service Minister Dr. Nigel Clark has indicated that infrastructure spending will be one of the biggest ticket item in the upcoming 2020-2021 national budget, which will be tabled next month. He has identified that the South Coast Highway linking Harbourview in St. Andrew to Port Antonio in Portland and capital work at the National Water Commission as among the premium items in the 2020-2021 budget. The government will be spending US $195 million to undertake road construction work under the South Coast Highway Improvement Project, which entails the rehabilitation of 14-kilometer stretch of road from Harbourview in Kingston to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas by China Harbour Engineering Company Limited by way of a 3-year contract. So what we're seeing now is that funds are now being allocated for the construction of this network. This was around the same time when the Trans-Jamaica Highway IPO was on the verge of occurring. And if we recall, we stated that investing in the Trans-Jamaica Highway is a good long-term investment. However, investing now, you would see a decline as you will be giving up money so they could work on roads, and then over time when revenues are generated, then you will be compensated based on the increase in revenue as expenditures decrease. The finance minister boasted that Jamaica has overcome external fiscal and price instability. What is significant is that for the last 5 decades, Jamaica has never had price sustainability, external sustainability, and fiscal sustainability all at the same time. This is what makes the time so special. We must commit and endeavor that comes what may, we do not lose those elements. In conclusion, Dr. Nigel Clark, emphasized we have learned from experience what works and what doesn't. I pray that is true. Our next article comes to us from the Jamaica Gleaner, dated March 5th, 2020, and the caption is South Coast Highway work to start in 3 months. So we are now in the month of March, the 5th day, 2020. And we are being advised that the project should start in 3 months. That would take us to April, May, June. By June of 2020, the project should start. This is the same project that should have started the end of 2018. By September 2019, which had a groundbreaking in November of 2019, which is going to officially be started in 2020. So though the groundbreaking took place, the project actually did not start until after the groundbreaking had occurred. But let us hear what the news article has to say to us. Major work on the Southern Coast Highway are to start in 3 months. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Darrell Vaz, has told Parliament Standing Finance Committee. It says that a pre-rehabilitation exercise along areas of the roadway marks for construction began last October. Vaz told Parliament on Tuesday that the Holness administration was mindful that several persons reside on lands to be utilized for the new highway would be displaced by the development. He, however, stressed that the government had been in dialogue with stakeholders and will not be ruling out compensation for dislocated settlers. Prime Minister Andrew Holness broke ground in November 2019 to commence the multi-billion-dollar Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The undertaking will entail the rehabilitation of 110 kilometers of roadway between Harbourview in St. Andrew and Port Antonio in Portland and 20 26 kilometers thoroughfare from Moran Bay to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas. The total cost of the project is US $384 million. Of the sum, $195 million will be spent on the eastern portion of the road work, while the remaining $189 million will be allocated to the Highway 2000 extension. The project will be executed by China Harbor Engineering Company. I hope you are seeing the breakdown here. So US $384 million had been allocated for the project, and we got some in loan from the Chinese bank, and we had some from our own coffers, the government coffers or the people's taxation. And of that $384 million, $195 million will be spent on the non-pole section of the road development, which would be the eastern leg. However, the remaining $189 million will be allocated to the extension of the Highway 2000. That extension encompasses section B of the highway. So we are seeing that we're actually making progress even though we are behind schedule. But this is a good sign. Now let us move to the next article that says work on the Portland leg of highway continues despite budget cut, and this comes to us from the Jamaica Observer dated May 21, 2020, and it reads: the Portland leg of the Southern Coast Highway Improvement Project is continuing at the fast pace despite a $6.6 billion cut in the amount the government allocated to spend on the massive road program this fiscal year. So they told them they were giving them the money, and then it was a major ticket item, and then they cut it a little bit. In the first supplementary estimate for the 2020-2021 fiscal year tabled in Parliament the week prior, the allocation for the long-touted road improvement project was reduced by more than 50%, from $12.9 billion to $6.2 billion. The big ticket items reduced were the amounts allocated for the acquisition of land, which has been cut by $2.2 billion, while $4.1 billion has been slashed from the amount allocated for fixed assets for the work, which covers the rehabilitation of approximately 110 kilometers of road between Harborview in St. Andrew and Port Antonio in Portland, and the 26 kilometers thoroughfare through Morans Bay to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas. So far, work has started on the corridors of the Audley Crossing in St. Thomas and Long Road in Portland, and the road from Manchineer to Fair Prospect, where preparation including the clearing of land and the widening of the roadway, cutting down of overhanging trees, and the gathering of stones construct the retaining wall is still in progress. So let us understand what has happened here. Estimated costs for the land valuation was cut. It's a strategic move. So what happened is that you pay taxes based on the current land value, and the government tend not to reevaluate lands on a consistent basis, but they reevaluate lands when they want to increase taxation. We are hypothesizing that instead of having the lands reevaluated to their expected value, they kept the lands at their retroactive value, the value that they were before. After the upgrade of these road networks would have taken place, the same lands which would have been at a particular value in 2020 would increase maybe 20, 30, 40, 50-fold. Who knows? But it will increase, which would cause an increase in taxation on the remaining parcel. That there is saying that the people who actually gave up a portion of the land and still have a piece of the land, they will still have to pay an increase in their taxation. But I'm glad that an agreement was reached. However, a cut of $2.2 billion indicates a great saving and a great strategic maneuver for the government of Jamaica. However, the people who should have been compensated for the land that they owe at the price that they could have gotten for it on the open market were not compensated in that regards. But that is what happened when you don't understand the value of how much you have. The good thing about the situation is that we don't have any riots at this time. We're not going to dwell too much longer
longer on this article. We're going to be moving over to our 21st article. It's under the caption, "The Southern Highway Project Won't Stall." And this is coming to us from the Jamaica Observer, and the date is June 23rd, 2020. And it reads, Head of the National Work Agency, E.C. Hunter, says that with the cut in the budget for the Southern Coastal Highway, the government is now deep in discussion with China Harbour Engineering Company to see how best the project can be reconstructed with minimum fallout. The budget of $12.91 billion originally set aside for the highway has been slashed by half in a revised national budget to make room for billions in CV expenditure. Speaking at the recent meeting of the Public Administration and Appropriation Committee, PAAC, which examined the estimates, Hunter said that work would forge ahead on the designs, notwithstanding the delay in some elements of actually construction, which were supposed to start in the second quarter of the fiscal year. The NWA is administering the Yallahs to Harborview leg of the highway, while the National Road Operation and Construction Company, NROC, is in charge of the second phase from Maypen in Clarendon to Williamsfield in Manchester. But at the end of the day, we must find a way to ensure the viability of this highway. I think we have time for one more article. Article number 22. The article is captioned, NEPA Keeping an Eye on Changes to the South Coast Highway. This article was published September 12, 2020, coming to us from the Jamaica Observer, written by Balford Henry. The article reads that residents of Harborview have been assured of the National Environmental and Planning Agency full participation in amending the Environmental Impact Assessment, the EIA, report for the long-delayed Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, SCHIP. Prime Minister Andrew Holness broke ground in November 2019 to commence the multi-billion-dollar highway project, which will include a rehabilitation of approximately 110 kilometers of roadway between Harborview in St. Andrew and Port Antonio in Portland, and 26 kilometers thoroughfare from Moran Bay to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas. Additionally, it will include construction of the Maypen to Williamsfield segment of Highway 2000. However, the project has been plagued with several issues, including contractor China Harbour Engineering Company proposal to improve alignment of roadway. Assurance of NEPA's vigilance as a project move ahead came from the agency managers for the application. So important to note, it says that the EIA report, Environmental Impact Report for the proposed realignment, are available to the public from various sources, including the St. Thomas Municipal Corporation, the Bull Bay and Yallahs Post Office, the Bull Bay Police Station, or from the NEPA website. So if you want that information, you can go and check for it, and if we come across it, then we'll have it linked in the description. This is where we will have to put a pause on our news recap and review of the developments concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The saga will continue, and there are more revelations and changes that are to come that you may have not known occurred. However, here at RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's roads, it is our duty to keep you in the know. Until next time, when we will step closer into the present 2021 with intentions to move forward in the process of prediction for the future. You don't want to miss it. But for now, walk, drive, and fly good. This is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire, signing out from Greetings and welcome, family. Thanks for stopping by for another episode of RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's roads. To navigate you through the experience is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire and guide. Today we'll be covering some news articles dated in 2021 concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. News articles like NWA halts work on section of the Southern Coastal Highway due to extortion. Really? Highway projects resume after extortion threats. Effective negotiation. $17.4 billion set aside for the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Wow. Work to continue on the Southern Coastal Highway Project. Highway project strikes fear in the hearts of Grandspan. These and so much more. If this is information that you're interested in experiencing, stick around. We'll be right back. Thanks for choosing to stay for the experience now that we are all here. If you have not yet subscribed to RoadTripja, please feel free to do so and ensure you turn your notification on to all so you will be notified on every occasion of release without exception. If our conversation added any value or even a new perspective, please indicate by turning the like button blue. To have a conversation with us, you may do so in the VIP section, the comments. And don't forget to share so others can become a part of the family. For added information and reference material, visit the description below. It is now that time again. It is time to get active. We are finally in the year 2021. Our first article in our sequential article flow is number 23, captioned NAA halts work on section of the Southern Coastal Highway due to extortion. And this article comes to us from the Jamaica Observer, dated February 10, 2021. So we're seeing that as the work started, it had to be halted. The article reads to us that Kingston, Jamaica, the National Workers Agency has halted activity on a section of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project SCHIP, which is being implemented in the St. Andrew, St. Thomas and Portland. The agency said that the decision was taken to suspend work along the Georgia to Cedar Valley leg of the project on the weekend, following threats received from what appeared to be extortionists who are demanding bi-weekly advancements if the project is to continue. It said that demands were made by way of handwritten letter, neither the source or the author of which were declared. The NAA said that the work site was closed even while critical wall construction and revetment protection workers were in progress along the badly deteriorated roadway. The matter was reported to the police, who are carrying out an investigation. The NAA said the agency noted that the works to be completed along the 15 kilometers Georgia to Cedar Valley contact package is very valuable. It explains that the roadway is earmarked for extensive reconstruction and improvement, including a new pavement, the upgrading of existing drainage features, and the construction of new ones, including culvert, the installation of shoulders in more rural areas, and new curbs and gutter and sidewalks in built-up areas. The practice of extortion is a bad practice that has been allowed to manifest itself based on the political divide in Jamaica. If we can remember, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even in the 90s, extortionism was very rampant in Jamaica. As remember, corruption doesn't start from the bottom up, it starts from the top and comes down. So we can understand why we are seeing the emergence of extortion taking place, because it was a practice that was facilitated by the previous governance of this country. These tactics were used to win elections, to control communities, for distribution of certain paraphernalias, etc. But in relation to the work, it is just quite sad that extortion had to show its ugly head in a situation where the community in which the work is being done is to be benefited. And as usual, it's not expected that the police will come to any conclusion where the investigation is concerned. But we do appreciate the police involvement to investigate after the fact. Let us see if the highway project will be resumed after this extortion scare. That takes us to our second article, article number 24, under the caption, Highway Project Resumes After Extortion Threat. And this article is brought to us by Sharon Monteith on February 11, 2021, coming to us from The Gleaner. It says to us that work on the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project SCHIP resumed yesterday after 5-day suspension triggered by an extortion threat made last Friday. So after the threat, they stopped work for 5 days. It means that they were fearful, and we can understand why they would be fearful, because we already know what the extortion community can do, especially based on how the government in past eras have armed them adequately to be able to carry out the extortative practices. So these threats have to be taken seriously. And the article continues, the threat, which was made anonymously by a handwritten note, called for bi-weekly payments to be made if the project were to continue. It triggers a lockdown of operation even though critical wall construction and revetment protection workers were in progress along section of the badly deteriorated road. Work on the project, which is being carried out by the China Harbour Engineering Company, resumed yesterday following a meeting the security force had with the national work agencies and other stakeholders. One individual stated that it seems as though it was some level-headed person just trying to create mischief. But remember that the opening service during the address of the official launch of the SCHIP in August of 2019, the Prime Minister Andrew Holness issued a stern warning against extortioners who have plagued other roadworks across the island. And this is public knowledge, and a lot of the extortionists were paid. So the statement the Prime Minister made was based on what had happened in the past and what he had expected. But I hope this does not recur. On February 24, 2021, we were presented with another article coming from the Jamaica Information Service by Elise Smith under the caption 17.4 billion set aside for Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. And the article reads to us that a sum of 17.4 billion has been allocated in the 2021-2022 estimate of expenditure to continue implementation of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project SCHIP. The project seeks to improve the alignment and the capacity of existing Southern Coastal main arterial road in order to make it safe and efficient, free from flooding, and provide for future development. The funds will be used to carry out Part A work under the project, which relates to the Maypen to Williamsville segment. This will include continuing and completing design, continuing road construction work, and achieving 65% completion, continuing land acquisition activities, and gaining access to 100% of necessary parcels along the Maypen to Williamsfield road alignment, and continuing utility relocation and achieving 100% completion. For Part B of the work, Harbourview to Albion to Yallahs Bridge to Port Antonio, and Morant Bay to Cedar Valley, the allocation will be used to continue construction work of the Harbourview to Yallahs Bridge segment, achieving 60% completion, and mobilize and complete various other construction packages and achieve 65% to 100% completion. Up to December 2020, under the project design for the Maypen to the Williamsfield section was 90% complete. The Harbourview to Albion to Yallahs Bridge segment was 10% complete. The Yallahs Bridge to Port Antonio construction was 15% completed, and the Morant Bay to Cedar Valley construction was 40% completed. In addition, 5 of 15 construction for the Yallahs Bridge, Port Antonio, and Morant Bay to Cedar Valley segments were awarded. 5 of the 15 construction packages for Yallahs Bridge to Port Antonio and the Morant Bay to Cedar Valley section reached 16% completion. Other work done for the various segments includes completion of alignment survey and preliminary drone survey, completion of land acquisition sketch plans, and completion of any informal review of outlined design. We are once again reminded that the project is being implemented by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation with funding from the Exim Bank of China and the government of Jamaica. Following several extensions, the project, which began in January 2017, is slated to end in March 2022. But you know, and I know that March 2022 is a date that they have set, but will it be completed on that date? It may be highly unlikely. A better date to set would be for the year 2023 and not the year 2022. But let us see if they are able to play catch up Reported from the Jamaica Information Service, date March 20, 2021, by Rochelle Williams, under the caption, "Work to continue on Southern Coastal Highway Project." And it says that the National Works Agency, NWA, will continue work on the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project SCHIP as the main capital road project for 2021 through 2022. This was disclosed by the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, while making his contribution to the 2021-2022 budget debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, March 18, 2021. He said that during the year, work will commence on 5 additional contract packages valued at approximately $6.6 billion. These are the Yallus Bridge to Loudon Hill, Salt Pond, 6.72 kilometers, Loudon Hill, Salt Pond to Pamfret, 4.9 kilometers, Pamfret to Morant River Bridge, 9.55 kilometers, Boston area to Drapers, 7.44 kilometers, and Drapers to Port Antonio, which is 9.52 kilometers. To date, measured work valued at approximately $53 million US have been certified under the SCHIP. Pipelines and sewage installation work valued at some $29 million US will continue to be rolled out in tandem with road work, the Prime Minister said. He noted that SCHIP is expected to open up new areas for tourist development and improvement in traffic flow in several urban centers along the country's southern coastal arterial roadway. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister said that work will continue on improving the country's bridge infrastructure, noting that the focus for 2021-2022 is on completing the Mahogany Valley Bridge in St. Thomas, the Tribe River Bridge in St. Mary, and the Golden Valley Bridge in Portland. Construction on the Pennsfield Bridge in St. Andrew is also expected to commence alongside repairs to the other bridge, he noted. Work on the Baraska River Bridge in St. Mary, Liganey Avenue Bridge in St. Andrew, and Riverton City Bridge in Kingston are expected to be in Kingston were completed in 2020-2021. With all the saga that has been taking place, from extortion threats, work halting, work resuming, money being allocated for the Southern Coastal Highway Project, should anyone have any fear of this project? Well, our article number 27, coming from the Gleaner, dated April 19, 2021, states that the highway project strikes fear in the heart of Grand Spend. This is saying to us that the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement SCHIP is being touted as a key to the economic development of St. Thomas, but residents in Grand Spend fear it is likely to push their quiet seaside community into oblivion. The first phase of SCHIP will rehabilitate approximately 110 kilometers of the roadway between Harborview in St. Andrew and Port Antonio in Portland, and 26 kilometers thoroughfare from Morant Bay to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas. Grand Spend, which is situated along the stretch leading from Harborview Bridge to Yallus Bridge, currently has approximately an estimate of 3,000 residents situated near the sea. Several residents have been making a living from either fishing or selling seafood. The government has allotted $17.4 billion in the 2021-2022 estimate of expenditure towards implementation of the project, which is expected to be completed by March 2022. The construction of the highway will mean the residents might have to venture further to get access to public transportation, but even more worrying for those living in Grand Spend is the likelihood that traffic will be rerouted, which is true. They said when the highway built, our community is going to become a back road, which is true, because the vehicles are going to travel on the side mostly, or the newly developed road, said David Bowen, indicating the hilly terrain in the distance. Prior to CV, the popular Sizzler Beach was abuzz with activity. Visitors would pass the jumble and zinc and board and concrete building at the front to venture inward, where they would be greeted by blue seas. And based on the road design and the road networking, we realized that the enhancement community will be slightly circumvented, and that circumvention may impact in a negative manner their livelihood for the selling of fish and for the attraction to the area, as it will now become out of sight, which means inevitably it will eventually become out of mind, excepting in cases where people are intentional about finding the location. Other economic implications may occur. However, we will have to re-examine that community in more detail. This is where we have to put a pause on our news recap and review of the developments concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The saga will continue, and there are more revelations and changes that are to come that you may not have known occurred. However, here at RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's roads, it is our duty to keep you in the know. Until next time, when we will continue the discovery of information concerning the publication of 2021 articles that surrounds the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, with intentions to move forward in the process of prediction for the future. You don't want to miss it.
But for now, walk, drive, and fly good. This is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire, signing out from RoadTripja. Peace, love, respect. Greetings and welcome, family. Thanks for stopping by for another episode of RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's roads. To navigate you through the experience is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire and guide. Today we'll be continuing our coverage on some news in 2021 concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. It is said to be one of the biggest undertakings of the government of Jamaica for the year 2020-2021. From being planned to being part to being replanned, repackaged, and now in progress. Having started and having stopped. Having extortion, threats, bringing hope, bringing tears. This one project has done so much, but today our focus will be on the government to find US $134 million for South Coast Highway Project. And to top it all off, as is customary, Jamaican Highway Improvement Project hit by cost overrun. If this is something you'd like to have more clarity on, have another perspective, then stick around. We'll be right back. Thanks for choosing to stay for the experience. Now that we are all here, if you are not yet subscribed to the RoadTripja channel, please feel free to do so and ensure you turn your notification on to all so you will be notified on every occasion of a release without exception. If our conversation added any value or even a new perspective, please indicate by turning the like button blue. To have conversations with us, you can do so in the VIP section of the comments, and don't forget to share so others can be a part of the family. For added information and reference material, visit the description below. It is that time again. It is time to get active. In our article sequential flow, we're now at article number 28. To review our catalog of news, reviews, commentaries of articles published, please click the link in the suggested video. Now, this article comes to us from Best FM, dated May 6, 2021. Caption: Government to find US $137 million more for South Coast Highway Project. The article went on to explain that the government has been forced to cough up an additional US $133.9 million to cover the increased scope of the work on the ongoing Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The highway, covering 3 trenches and 15 packages, is to run from Harborview in St. Andrew to Port Antonio, Portland. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Everett Warmington, made the announcement of increased costs on Wednesday during his contribution to the 2020-2021 to 2022 sectoral presentation in the House of Representatives. Warmington explained that under the contracting process, the main contractor, China Harbor Engineering Company, SCHIP, would have invited tender for the work from qualified local contractors. He said awards were made on a competitive basis, with the lowest bid being accepted in each case. However, Warmington disclosed that an analysis of the bid showed that they all exceeded the engineering estimates, which would have been tied to the original sum in the agreement between the Jamaica government and Exim Bank. What this therefore means is that we will have to find additional funds to cover the cost of the higher tender sum, the minister said. In noting that the integrated strategy behind the project means that water, sewage, telecom, and other relevant infrastructure are being put in at the same time, Warmington said this too will come at an additional cost to the program, but will be of super benefit. The increased amount will see an additional $60.8 million being spent in regards to fund all 15 packages. The expansion and renewal of the National Water Commission (NWC) system includes sewer in selected areas will require an additional $64 million. While engineering consultancy and project management services until 2022 is to see an additional $8.7 million spent. Warmington told the House, in light of the deleterious impact of the pandemic on the government revenue, a recommendation has been made for the costs for engineering, consultancy, and project management service to be financed in its entirety by the government, so the funds earmarked in the main contract will remain available for construction expenditure, which should prevent any need for additional budgetary support until 2022-2023 financial year. So if we examine this article in a little more detail, we will realize that there was a situation in which the government experts did an evaluation of the work that should be done, and they fell so short of the estimate that even choosing the lowest bid, they were still under by millions of US dollars. This goes to give us an indication that the hypothesis that the persons who sold their lands to the government sold their lands at a retroactive value and not the actual or the future value based on these presentations. Based on this article, we are reminded that the main contractor is China Harbor Engineering Company, and they have subcontracted, which means that they are the main contractor. They have selected contractors locally who can complete additional areas of the work based on the agreement with the government, and those subcontractors placed a bid on the project. However, the bid that was selected, I want everyone to hear this, the bid that was selected was a bid that cost the least. Now we have an understanding why persons who do poor work or persons who does work with a particular bid and is unable to complete the work still is allowed to get another job, because they're underbidding, not because the work can be completed with the sum that they bid. They're underbidding so that they can actually get the contract in order to fund their business expenditures. And what they do when they have received that contract, they try to do as much of the work as is possible. But before they knew, or they have a knowledge or even a suspicion that based on the tight margins that they have, any changes in price fluctuation will derail the completion of the work at the quality expected. Sometimes cheapest or lowest is not always best. We're not saying that those who bid lowest are subpar to those who bid higher. We are just saying the awarding of contracts cannot be solely based on who tenders the lowest bid. Because if I have someone in government, I can hear what all the bid prices are and just bid a cent or two lower, and then my bid would be seen as a favorable bid because of money, not because of infrastructure assessment, not because of quality, not because of prior record, because the government does not really care about all of that when you come to the bidding table. And each time you go to the bidding table, it's a different set of people that you deal with. A good point to note is that there will be an integration of water, sewage, telecom, and other relevant infrastructure at the same time as the work is being done on the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. This gesture is quite welcome because what we have seen in the past is that after the road would have been built, 2-3 months later or a year later, National Water Commission would come to run pipelines. JPS would come to put up new poles and infringe and impair the integrity of the road structure that was already laid. So when we can avoid these situations, it is most ideal for everyone. My greatest admonition to the government is to ensure that they have relevant infrastructure in place to facilitate autonomous driving, because as we are projecting into the future now, by 2030, we should have vehicles which are self-driven even to a particular degree on the road. And I think that the road network has to be computerized in order to facilitate the total autonomous driving technology. So I hope that provisions have been made for that. So as we look at the overrun and the underestimate of the work that was supposed to be done, the increased amount sees an additional 60.8 million being spent in this regards to fund the subcontracted work, and the 60.8 million is US dollars. We are seeing where the National Water Commission system, including the sewers in selected areas, will require an additional 64.34 million. So I am assuming that the Water Commission is getting 64.36 million, and the additional packages which were on the bid should get also 60.8 million. If we add 64.36 million to 60.8 million, then we end up with 125.16 million. And the article says that the government to find 134 million more, which means that something is missing. So we are going to have to look for the 8.84 million. Let's see if we can find it. And we are finding it. It says, while engineering, consultancy, and project management services until 2022 is to see an additional 8.7 million being spent. So if 8.7 million is being spent, I am assuming that there was some rounding which caused the values not to equate to the 134 million. So we are seeing that just to consult, just the engineering consultancy and to manage the project cost an additional 8.7 million US dollars. I hope you understand what is happening here. Just to consult and to manage the project costs an additional $8.7 million, not to do the project, just to offer your opinion on the project, providing that you have the level of expertise and you have the right connections. You could have been a beneficiary of that $8.7 million. And we're seeing that provisions are being made for the 2022-2023 budget for this project, which should be ending in March 2022. However, we know that there's a high probability this will prolong into 2023. That is just our projection. We could be off by a bit, but let us see what the government has in store for us. Confirming this article, published May 10th, 2021, Billionaire Mercus, Jamaica Highway Improvement Project hits a cost overrun. This article is just confirming what has happened in the previous article. It says the Jamaican Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, SCHIP, will cost an additional 134 million according to the Minister without Portfolio, Everett Warmington. The project started in 2019 with an initial cost of 384 million, but increase in construction and sewage system costs have put it over budget. What this therefore means is that we will have to find additional funds to cover the cost of the high tendered sum. The project is being overseen by main contractor China Harbor Engineering, and the original loan was agreed between Jamaica government and the China Exim Bank. Warmington warns that more costs are foreseen. What? More costs are foreseen as the government use an integrated utility relocation system, improving water, sewage and telecoms and other relevant infrastructure. This will cost more but minimize disruption to customers of those utility light poles and pipelines will be moved with ducts installation to allow for broadband improvement. Jamaica National Work Agency anticipates spending 4.7 billion US on road maintenance and repair, disaster mitigation, bridge development, and construction under the program. The project capital budget is being estimated at 17.4 billion, sufficient to cover the current cost of SCHIP. This is amazing. So even though we have hit a cost overrun at this time of an additional 134 million, we are still to be anticipating additional cost runs. Welcome to the Jamaican experience and government expenditure. This is what happened when we don't have accurate estimates. This is what happened when we use retroactive pricing instead of the current pricing or the future projected pricing. This is what happens when we don't consult independent entities. This cost overrun didn't need to happen had we had the right infrastructure laid in place. But how will this cost run be paid for? I can assure you, the citizens of the country, those who may consider themselves beneficiary of the highway improvement project, will be those communities footing the bill along with the wider population of Jamaica under the guise of the government of Jamaica. This is where we have to put a pause on our news recap and review of the development concerning the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The saga will continue, and there are more revelation and changes that are to come that you may not have known occurred. However, here at RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's roads, it is our duty to keep you in the know. Until next time, when we will continue the discovery of information concerning the publications of 2021 articles in relation to the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project SCHIP, with intention to move forward in the process of prediction for the future. You don't want to miss this. If you have any questions, comments, or concern, please leave them in the VIP section and we will get back to you. Please feel free to use our email handle roadtripja.jm@gmail.com. But for now, walk, drive, and fly good. This is Dr. A, your excursion extraordinaire, signing out from RoadTripja. Peace, love, respect.
And this is a Manly Meadows community on our left hand. Making our way all the way to Harborview. So we're leaving KPH and we're making our way to Harborview via Salkemp Road to downtown. And here we are in Harbor View. Thanks for joining us on the Road Trip JA, the heartbeat of Jamaica's road. This is your excursion extraordinaire and guide. Walk, ride, drive, and fly good. Greetings and welcome to Road Trip JA, the heartbeat of Jamaica's road. Now that we're in the community of Harborview, let us get a look at what the shopping center in this vicinity looks like. Stick around and enjoy. You have made it to the end of the road with us in our Harborview observation. We're gonna now transition to making our way from Harborview to Albion Estate. So see you in the next video.